everything I have done in my life was training for this. And every morning, I tell people, every morning, you know what gets me up? The minerals. They tell me, get up, get up. We need to get Mother Earth back into the human race so they can resonate again with the earth.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Ask Julie Ryan Show. I'm so delighted you could join us today because we have such a treat for you. You guys are going to love Caroline Allen. She has a novel way for us to be healthy. And so I've asked her to come on the show because, you know, this show is all about finding the best ways for health and to enhance our lives and to merge spirituality with health. And so I'm really excited to talk to her. Caroline, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Julie. It's really lovely to be here.
Oh, my delight. You are a businesswoman and you were in tech. So what led you from the wild world of tech, the corporate side of the equation, into starting a company based in nutrition? Tell us about what led up to that. And I'm interested to hear about your story.
Yeah. Well, I've had many chapters, Julie, as many of us have. And in one chapter, I was kind of a top gun for hire in the corporate world, in the technology, software implementation world. And I was a project manager. And what does a good project manager get? A bigger, more complex project that's gone sideways, that needs to be fixed, that's over budget, So at a certain point, and it's a very male dominated field. I just burned out, literally. I just hit a limit. I was like, I cannot do this anymore. And I saw the writing on the wall of where I was headed, and it was not where I wanted to end up. And so I stopped doing that. And at that time, I had flatlined adrenals. I had really bad inflammation in my gut, even though I had been gluten-free for like 8 years. I could never get over that inflammation. I had really bad inflammation in my mouth with gingivitis and receding gums and bone loss. I had sinus infections every 6 or 8 weeks. And all sorts of, when your adrenals out, that also usually means your hormones are out, and my thyroid was out. And so I was in very ill health, and I had headaches all the time. I took a lot of Advil, which is also very not good for you. And it was introduced to plant-based minerals, which is kind of an oxymoron because, we think of, animal, vegetable, mineral, but actually there are something called plant-based minerals, which we can get into. But I started taking them and they were liquid. They tasted like water. They were easy to take. So I kept taking them. And after about 2 months, I went to my dentist. She looked in my mouth. I was having my teeth cleaned. There was no pain, which was an absolute surprise. And she was like, what's changed? The pH in your mouth has totally changed. The inflammation is gone. And I couldn't even think about it, but I was like, maybe it's these minerals, because I hadn't changed anything else. About 4 months in, I went to my naturopath. We did my adrenals test. She looked down at the paper, was surprised, turned it around, and I saw that my adrenals were 1/3 of the way up the chart. They had been flatlined for 2 years, almost 2 years. So that's phenomenal. And again, I was like, I think it might be these minerals. And over a space of about 8 or 9 months, all these chronic symptoms, I went through 1 season, 2 seasons, no sinus infection. And I started to feel so much better. And as a result, I ended up, I'm really curious. I was left with this intense curiosity about how this little glass of liquid that tasted like water could have such a huge impact on my health. And as a result, I I just went down the rabbit hole and I started studying, cellular biology, microbiology, plant decomposition, soil science, some quantum mechanics, biosynthesis processes in the body and how they work, and metabolic health, all sorts of aspects of metabolic health, and mitochondria inside the cells. And I just had so many huge aha moments that I went to my now business partner. I said, it's the minerals. We have to bring this message to the world. And I've been on that mission ever since.
How long ago was that?
That was 2010.
Okay.
Yeah, beginning of 2011. Yeah, so it's been a while. We didn't actually start the company until 2016. We've had a couple different brand names, but it was really those between 2010, 2015, 2015, when I was really deeply studying, and I kept going back to him and going, do you know this? Like, can you believe this? And he'd be like, yeah, isn't that incredible? I mean, and so these are the things I call myself a mineral geek, but really what I am is a mineral myth buster. So there's so many misunderstandings about minerals. It's sort of like in the past when people didn't know about the gut microbiome and nobody had ever heard about probiotics. And this minerals is truly the vanguard of health, because we're all experiencing mineral depletion. And it's the cause of many, like the root cause of many, many chronic issues that people are experiencing.
Do you believe that you went through those health issues to get you to the place now where you're being led to teach people around the world about minerals and lack of minerals and what it can do to the body? For lack of a better analogy, are you on a mission from God, like a Blues Brothers, movie or something? Certainly, I know that you've become obviously very educated on all these minerals and what the different ways it can help us are. But it's one thing to be interested. It's something else to have the golden ovary courage. Guys have breast balls, girls have golden ovaries, to be able to do this entrepreneurial thing, which I've done 9 times in 5 industries, by the way. So I understand it well. But I know what that takes to make that leap. Tell us about how you feel like you're being led and what that journey's been.
Yes. And thank you. I literally am having chills because I don't get asked that question very much. And because of your audience and the receptivity to this conversation, I'm really excited to talk about it. I have the experience in my life right now of that everything I have done in my life was training for this. And every morning, I tell people, every morning, you know what gets me up? The minerals. They tell me, get up, get up. We need to get Mother Earth back into the human race so they can resonate again with the earth. Because the reason, they have told me that the reason that we have so much discord is because we're not resonating. I mean, when you start learning about minerals, where you end up is in vibration. You end up, in the quantum world with vibration, and it's all about resonance and dissonance. So it's a humbling. It's been extremely humbling, and because literally everything I'm doing today is like, it's not only being on the growing edge of bringing a conversation to the world that isn't being talked about, but it's also about me being on my growing edge, because I've always been the person behind the scenes, making the leaders look really great because I was delivering on their vision. And now I'm the one with the vision out here bringing that vision. And a beautiful thing happened recently. My business partner, I was saying to him how I'm a pack animal. I love working with people and collaborating and teamwork. And I'm out here and often I feel alone. And it's been a struggle. This shift for me has been a struggle because I so much enjoy the collaboration, all the teamwork. And now where am I going to get that feeling of, being held? And I said, sometimes I feel like you're back there working with all the teams and get to have the fun, and I'm out here all alone. And he said, just turn around. And I turned around in my mind and I saw my whole team around me, encouraging me, supporting me, there for me with anything that I needed. And it's truly changed. I could tell you about another beautiful experience that I had in my life that you would probably appreciate, but it truly a life-changing experience.
So was he referring to your team at your headquarters in a different location, or was he referring to your spirit guide team, or both?
All, yes, exactly. Yeah. I'm going to tell you just because I think you would appreciate this. So I've always had an altar, and where I'm living now is much smaller, but I've had very large altars because I'm a very devotional. I have a deep devotion, and I was in a process, doing a personal process, and I heard that I was supposed to go and sit on the altar and look out. Instead of, I had up until that point spent my life facing the altar in that seeking mode, in that, there's the altar and here am I. And I went and I sat on the altar and I looked out, and it completely changed my entire worldview because all I could see was beauty. And I felt all my guides and people with me right there next to me, with me, like shoulder to shoulder. And so I think I've told that story maybe twice in my life. Thank you.
Well, and Spirit works through us and with us to facilitate not only our own healing, but I think everybody else's as well, of the people with whom we come in contact. But also, I think, too, it's one thing to get inspiration. It's something else to act on it. I never think the ideas are mine, but I take full credit for having the courage to act on it and do something with it and take the risk. And I appreciate you talking about this, Caroline, and we'll get to the minerals and all of that here in a second, but promise. But I think there are so many people listening to this show, either as soon as we release it or in the future, who do have those ideas and they think of 50 million different reasons why it can't work or why it won't work. And so they never take that first step. And it's been my experience that if you just take one step, even if it means you're looking something up online, you're going to be led to the next step and the next step and the next step. And before long, your path is going to become clearer to you as you go through this. But we've got to take action. Have you found that to be the same? Have you ever had this situation where you started on a website and before long you were at like the 7th or 8th website and you thought, how did I even get here? Didn't remember all those websites that led you to where you were, but it was all just a matter of taking action.
It's an interesting thing because people have often called me courageous, and I said, but I'm scared as hell a lot.
Right.
And I don't know. I came into this world with somehow a belief that there was anything I couldn't do if I wanted to do it. I never thought I can't do that. I can't learn technology. I can't learn. I mean, I was a choreographer. I have a degree in dance and choreography from NYU.
No
And then I went
kidding.
on
Wow.
to run a construction company in New York City.
Wow.
A 5'2" white woman running a construction company in New York City. And then I went on to learn all about computers and become a very successful, technologist. But one of the things that I saw is throughout it all, it's choreography. I call it my spidey sense. And the spidey sense is actually a spider can suddenly show up with a web right out in the middle of nowhere. And you're like, how in the world did they build that web right out in the middle of nowhere? Did they see, oh, that's a spot over here? And somehow they created this incredibly beautiful structure. And you have to have a vision, or you have to be driven. I spent the weekend with a lot of driven entrepreneurs. One thing, Mary Morrissey was there, and I don't know if you know, and she was.
Please tell everybody who aren't aware of her.
So Mary Morrissey is a woman who has spoken at the UN. She has been a spiritual teacher for many, many years. She ran the Omega Center in New York, which ended up having a big collapse because of her husband embezzled from her, and she was in debt for $10 million and chose, rather than to go bankrupt, to pay everyone back. And she now has her own company that she's running with her sons. She's also written a beautiful, beautiful book that's called Brave Thinking. And she was talking about how we tend to wait for permission. And the problem is you cannot wait for permission. You have to give yourself the permission to go and, start talking about minerals. And then all of the universe will conspire, because you go where you're looking. So anyway.
Yeah, I agree. Well, when I was led to teach people what happens when somebody dies, I thought, I live in Alabama. I'm going to have men on horseback with white hoods and, and cloaks and stuff on, burning a cross in my front yard. That has not happened.
Thank you.
What I have found is that people are really interested in this stuff because most people have experienced deceased loved ones and the spirits of deceased pets, that perhaps their grandparent or some other loved one at the end of their life, they're talking to them. And university-based research now shows that 90% of people see the spirits of deceased loved ones and pets at the end of their lives. So it does take courage, but I think more so than that, it takes just one step. Just take that first step. There are so many, especially women, who have great ideas and they think, well, I don't have a engineering degree. I don't know how to manufacture something. I'm a girl with a communications degree like you with a choreography degree. I have invented surgical devices sold throughout the world. How's that work? Well, we're led. I was never a medical provider. I'm not an engineer. I never manufactured stuff, but I did all that stuff, just because I was led to do it. Interestingly enough, back to the mineral thing, I've learned how to be a medical intuitive, and it's as if I'm a human MRI, Caroline, and I can see in my mind's eye broken bones, torn ligaments, viral infections, bacterial infections, cancer, or whatever. And this is what I teach people around the world how to do. And interestingly enough, when I was preparing for our conversation today, the vision that kept coming into my head is what arthritis looks like in the operating room when a joint is being scoped. And it looks like calcium deposits. It looks like the corrosion on the battery, for instance, maybe in a car or in a flashlight that's corroded, and it's that white crunchy stuff. It looks like the corrosion on a pipe that maybe has a little leak, and it's that white crunchy stuff. And I'm an inventor of orthopedic surgery devices. So I've been at a bazillion surgeries where a joint is being scoped, that's what it looks like on the monitors. And I thought, well, duh, it's mineral deposits of what? Malabsorption? What's going on in that situation?
Yeah.
And I know the root cause is inflammation, and I know most inflammation comes from the gut. So I'd like to go down that path and explore that with you a little bit.
Yeah. One of the things that I have learned, and just to speak to your thing of what you do in your life now, and you're a human MRI, and there is a process by which we come to accept what we are, and I'm really appreciative of you sharing that, because I'm not a scientist, I'm not a practitioner, I'm not a researcher, but I find every day I speak with people who are way smarter than I am, and they do not know about minerals and how they work in the body, the most fundamental thing. It's such a fundamental thing. So the thing that blew my mind the most when I started really researching this is that the body is made it constantly is healing itself. And even in many things that we think of, that the body is like arthritis or a calcification. I have some in my shoulder. That's why I put my hand there. And
I can help you with that. We'll do that at the end. Yeah. We'll take care of that.
Okay. Thank you. But the body it's infinitely wise. And the challenge is that if you're not giving your body what it needs at a fundamental level, it cannot do what it is made to do. So it's absolutely phenomenal that when I provided these minerals to my body, this full spectrum of minerals that my body needs in this incredibly bioavailable way, that my body literally had enough energy. It could generate enough energy to do what it normally, not exponentially, but just normally can do, which is clear inflammation, fix this over here, remove these senescent cells, on and on and on, gather these free radicals and get them out, take out the glyphosate, let's get all that stuff out, bring the minerals, I need some phosphorus over here, there it is, great. Oh, I need some molybdenum over here. Oh, I need calcium, but there's too much over here, let's clear that. Do you see? It's most of us are actually operating with only about 40%, and that's a very high estimate, by the way, of the minerals that we need for optimal health. Not even for optimal health, just for normal functions. So we have this huge rise in chronic health issues. I just heard another talk this weekend from somebody who's very knowledgeable in tracking chronic health issues patterns, at least in the US. And there's just, in the last 15 years, there's been such a huge rise. And a lot of it is because our foods are depleted of minerals. And now we're all drinking bottled and filtered water, which mostly has no minerals. So this mineral depletion has gone exponential now. And what is it creating? It's creating all these chronic health issues because the body says, if I can't do everything, I will do what I absolutely have to do. And I won't take care of the other things that, you can still limp around. Okay, great. Oh, you can still work with that shoulder that's not great. Okay. But what would the possibility and the potential is, what would it feel like to take the light, like if you're a light that's operating at 40%, what if you just even turned it up 20% to 60%? How much better could you feel moment to moment?
Yeah, interesting. Why are we so depleted in minerals when we're eating organically, we're eating grass-fed and pastured pork and beef and free-range chicken and all of that, and we think, I'm eating a healthy diet and I still am not there. Why? Is it because the minerals in the soil are so depleted? Is that part of it? I know the glyphosate issue, which is the Roundup. And I was talking to my husband about something. He goes, well, you just need to buy some Roundup. I said, there will be no Roundup in our yard. That's not happening. Tell us why. How did we get to that point? And speaking of filtered water, I can't do spring water. When I drink spring water, it gives me a stomach ache. I always think there's like little parameciums or something in the spring water that my body's going, what is that? So what's going on that's led us to that?
Okay. So here's a cool thing to think about. When a plant grows in the soil, the way that the structure of the plant is created is by drawing minerals out of the soil. If you think about your body, every single bit of structure in your body is made of minerals. If you look around the room, all of the furniture, the chair, the microphone, the picture, everything is made. All the structure in the world is minerals. Now, when you grow a plant in soil, it takes the minerals from the soil to grow the plant. Even a huge redwood tree, it's pulled minerals out of the soil year after year after year to build that structure. So when the problem is that in doing production farming, where we're, it's if you're a hunter, a forager, you're just going back. What's happening out in the forest is those plants are constantly decomposing and bringing the minerals back into the soil and then growing back up. But in production farming, that's not what happens. They grow the plants out of the soil. They can't get the minerals back into the soil, at least with traditional production farming methods. Okay. So in the 1930s, there was a congressional session, a special session of Congress about the issue of mineral depletion in the soils. And what have they done about it? Nothing. Because it's one thing to put nitrates back into the soil, or put even humus back into the soil, but minerals of the type that would be bioavailable to the plant and support the nutritional quality of the food, it's very, very complex. Okay, there are ways, but they're expensive. So the issue is that today, if you in our grandfather's time, you could eat one apple and get a certain amount of nutrition. And now it might take you 6 or 7 apples to get the same amount of nutrition. It's that depleted.
Wow.
So, and even if you're growing food in your backyard organic garden, you still have that issue because you're growing in that same soil and you have to learn how to get the minerals back into your backyard garden. And we can talk about that if people want to learn about that. So this, and then, drinking the bottled and filtered water, and, there are ways that we can get your water remineralized. So you should, really what I recommend is using reverse osmosis water, and then using something like our electrolyzed product, which is the Fulvic, plant-based mineral. It won't change the flavor of your water at all, and it will provide the full spectrum of minerals that your body needs, already naturally formulated in the ratios of minerals that your body is made of and utilizes. So your throat won't close up when you drink that. Your throat will open up and it'll be like, this is just what I need. I actually have had that experience, Julie, where certain waters, I try to drink them and my throat closes up and my body says,
I have
no.
too.
Oh, I've had that so much. I was just,
it's weird.
And literally somebody put a glass, I was in a restaurant and they put the glass on and I took a sip and I was like, I can't drink this water. But when I drink this water, it says our minerals in it. Literally, I could drink this whole glass down. And never in my life was I able to do that until this.
Yeah, but that's dark water. It looks like it's iced tea. That's just water with your minerals in it?
That's it. And it tastes like water. It has no flavor.
Interesting.
It has no flavor. Yeah.
Well, I remember being in grade school and learning about the rotation of crops, that
Hmm.
they'd plant the alfalfa in one field and then they'd plant something else in that field in the next year, and then they'd let it go dormant to replenish and all that. I was surprised when you said that really the science dates back to the 1930s or even before,
Hmm.
and that there was a congressional hearing. I'd never heard that before. It's also interesting to me too, Caroline, that you're talking about that everything's made of minerals.
Hmm.
So the energy goes into the minerals and the minerals help form. What's that connection? Do you know? Have you
Yeah.
thought about it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, and this is really where we get back to vibration. um, so this is such a beautiful thing is everything is made of minerals. And when you think about minerals, you ultimately end up in the atomic world, atoms. And what are atoms? They're these spinning vibrational. Each mineral has a particular vibrational quality of actual wave pattern associated with it. So ultimately, all minerals and combinations of minerals, they're all vibrational patterns. So these, I'm not this my business partner is so much better at speaking into this because he really understands morphogenic fields, which is a whole way of, what is holding this body together. All these cells ultimately, when you bring it, if you took all the water out of your body, you'd be a little pile of minerals. Think
Hmm.
about it. You'd be a little
Wow.
pile of minerals. That's
I've
what
never
would be.
heard that before,
Yes.
but it makes sense.
And the thing is, if think about a body, a human body, an adult human has between maybe 150 and 100, excuse me, 34 and 37, something like that, and 150 trillion cells. And inside your cells, you have these energy generating units that are called mitochondria, and they generate every single bit of energy in your body. Like that's allowing me to talk, move my hands, be here, grow babies in my belly, things, amazing. Think, see you, all of the processing, biosynthesis processes, everything. Okay. All of the energy generated to do all of those things is generated via these mitochondria. And what fuels the mitochondria is two things: minerals and amino acids. Now, your body makes a lot of amino acids, but you make no minerals. You have to ingest them all. The plant has to pull all those minerals from the soil. And our cells, they work pretty much the way all the other cellular systems work on Earth. So,
Interesting.
isn't
I
it?
always, I always think of minerals as coming from shells, like
Yes.
seashells or bones or rocks or something
Mhm.
like that. But you keep alluding to plant minerals, which makes
Yes.
sense that they're pulling it out of the soil, and the soil has all that decaying bone and rock and seashells and stuff like that. I have a friend that lives in Woodstock, New York, and apparently it was part of the ocean and was underwater millions of years ago because they have all these shells
Mhm.
in their ground
Mhm.
around their home.
Right, right,
And so I never thought about it that way before, but
right.
does it come from bone and shells and rock and stuff
So,
like that that's
well,
degraded and then the plants bring it up as part of their growing process?
so let's talk about it. It's really, really cool. I think it's cool anyway, but I'm a geek. Um, so imagine an entire rainforest back when the dinosaurs lived, and a big meteor hit the Earth, killed 90% of all life on Earth, and those rainforests of freshwater plants decomposed over millennia into this incredibly mineral rich substance. And there are different names for that substance. There's, in the Himalayas, they have shilajit. In Europe, they have peat. In some places, there's leonardite, and there's all these different materials. And it's decomposed rainforests. Okay. The material that we use for our products is called humate. So imagine this entire rainforest it's this black crystalline substance. It's specifically freshwater plants, because the particular things that I'm going to talk to you about, which I call plant-based minerals, is only comes from the decomposition of freshwater plants. So when you think about sea minerals that come from seawater or from sea plants, they don't have some of the capacities of the freshwater mineral. I mean, of the freshwater plants that decomposed into the plant-based minerals. And that's what's so cool about plant-based minerals, is that they don't only provide all the minerals that you need, but they also provide the delivery system for the minerals into your cells so they can be available to the mitochondria. They also provide intercellular and full system detoxification. Like they're truly a technology that has been evolved on the earth to support the thriving of cellular systems, of which your body is one.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Okay. Let's unpack that for a minute.
Yes.
I always, when I'm scanning clients, oftentimes I'll see what's known as leaky gut.
Mm-hmm.
Leaky gut looks to me like little tiny slits in the intestinal wall.
Yes.
And microscopic particles of food and toxins from the gut. I mean, it's the sewer of the body. Let's face it, get into the bloodstream and the body's going, oh crap, literally, we're under attack, batten down the hatches, and we go into an immune response. I learned about this from a doctor who got me well 40 years ago, because I had leaky gut for I had leaky gut for the first 40 years of my life. He got me well almost 25 years ago. I'm 64 now. And how I found out about this was one day I was in his office. Now, this is a Cornell educated internist who taught at Cornell Medical School for years. And he was in his early 80s when I met him. And he had people from all over the world that would come to visit him, and he would get them well by fixing their guts. And I said to him one day, his name was Dr. Truss. I said, Dr. Truss, I meet all these young women in your office who are having infertility issues. What's that have to do with the gut? And he said, come with me. Because, he was a teacher. So he takes me back to his lab and he puts a slide under this big microscope. And he said, this is the slide of a normal vaginal cell. He said, I'll do a blood draw on these women. Their hormone levels, their vitamin levels, everything looks fine. He said, then I do a vaginal swab and their vaginal cells look like those of a 90-year-old postmenopausal woman that hasn't seen estrogen in decades. So he showed me what a normal vaginal cell slide looked like. And then he showed me what a slide looked like of one of his patients having infertility issues. He said, we get their gut healthy. Their cell membranes relax. They allow the nutrients and the vitamins and the minerals and stuff to penetrate those cells. And these girls are getting pregnant in short order. So I used to tease him when I'd come in. I'd say, Dr. Truss, how many girls did you get pregnant this month? And he turned red and he thought that was hilarious. But boy, Caroline, that has stuck with me for 25 years, in that it's not just the estrogen that wasn't penetrating, it was everything. Exactly. And that's what you're talking about.
Yeah. And we're really, we have a nearly pandemic level issue of leaky gut associated with glyphosate exposure. I mean, I don't know if you know this, but, I know you know a lot about glyphosate, but in I think it was 2016, there was a study. It came out in the news recently that 80% of Americans, 80% had glyphosate in their urine. And that was 2000.
Even newborns have it in their urine. Yeah, exactly. It's frightening.
Exactly. So, and there's been some studies that have come out. And I just so you know, I want people to know on the show that there is a solution to glyphosate, and it's actually, strangely, it's plant-based minerals. So I want to
get into that next. I
want to go around to just create fear in people, because the thing is, there have always been toxins on the earth. back when the dinosaurs lived, back when there were volcanoes, there were lots of things that were concentrations of substances that were toxic to cellular systems. So there had to be evolved systems for bringing minerals into the cells and for detoxifying single cells and cellular systems. There had to be. And that is plant-based humic and fulvic substances.
So let's just jump right into that. I always tell people, whether they be clients or whether they're calling into my show asking a question, I say everything is healable. Sometimes the healing is death, if that's what the person's spirit and what their trajectory is, but everything is healable. And I've seen miraculous healings, not only energetically, but then they're backed up with what's integrating into the physical body. So how do we help people heal with minerals?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I say minerals don't heal anything. I say your body has the capacity to heal itself if you give it what it needs. So I just sat this weekend and heard a story of a man who 6 weeks ago was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. They said, get your affairs in order. This is the end of your life. And today he has no cancer in his body. And they wanted him to do chemo. And he said, I need to leave the hospital. I'm sorry, I'm not going to do that. And he has a 3-page single-spaced list of all the things that he has done in the last 6 weeks. I'm talking 6 weeks.
Wow.
6 weeks. So the body, given what it needs, has miraculous capacity. And that's the thing that in the research that I did, as I kept going deeper and deeper, and I went into these truly seemingly miraculous biosynthesis processes and everything, just the simple thing about the way a cell works and the lining of a cell or the lining of your gut, So, but we're dealing with this pandemic level issue of leaky gut. And so the reason that plant-based minerals are so helpful is that what your body needs is to be able to generate more energy, because at 40%, it can only take care of the fundamental things that it has to take care of. So what if you could turn that light up to 80%, 100%? It wouldn't be about, just getting by and living through the pain. Your body would have the energy to actually clear it, to optimize your tissues, your bones, your biosynthesis processes, to balance, do all of the balancing, the homeostasis. Your body is a balancing, it is constantly working to create this perfect, beautiful balance. And minerals are at the absolute foundational level. I talk to health practitioners, I talk to people with all sorts of different products and different, whether it's things you're going to eat or saunas or, all sorts of tools in the biohacking space. And every single one, to a one, agrees that without the minerals, they're all useless.
Big statement.
Yes. I'm telling you, every single one says, yeah. And without the minerals, this sauna isn't really going to work. And this, PEMF or all of these other things that you're taking in pill and powder form that they're just going straight through. So I'd love to share a little bit about how they work, because they're pretty cool to think about it.
I want to know, where do you, at Beam Minerals, the company you founded, where do you get the minerals? Mm-hmm. How do you process them? And then how do they work by drinking this liquid that turns water into looking like iced tea? How does that work?
Yeah. So we start out with this crystalline substance that's called humate, and it exists about 12 to 15 feet below the earth. We get it in the United States, in the Southwest United States. It's in a desert area, so it's mined respectfully, and as respect, we do disturb the land, but there's no plant growth around there, so it's not like it's not destroying an ecosystem. And well, we shouldn't say it definitely affects the ecosystem, but we try to put the land back in a good way so it can restore. And we take that material and we use water. And the water that we use is phenomenal. It's taken through incredible filtration systems, including some proprietary ones that I can't speak about, as well as some water structuring processes. And then we put it with these minerals and we extract. It's a very slow process. It's an alkaline extraction process. There's different ways that people extract minerals. One of the ways is with hydrochloric acid. Not a bad thing. It sounds bad. It's not bad. It's just that what you end up with as a result is something that tastes horrible, and it's a large molecule that requires digestion. The result of our processes ends up with this liquid. And the interesting thing about this liquid is there's nothing on the bottom of the glass, because there never will be. It's completely what's called ionic. It's dissolved down to its chemical components, so that when I drink this, it's absorbing through the tissues of my mouth, my esophagus, my throat. By the time it hits my stomach, it's already being utilized, actually absorbed and assimilated into the cells and utilized, because it doesn't actually require a healthy gut to be absorbed. That right there is a huge, huge thing. Because think about minerals that you buy in single, pills, powders, even electrolyte drinks and things. They're made from rocks, shells, bones, salts. That's another issue we can talk about, but rocks, shells, and bones. Let's just talk about that. And think about your digestive tract. How well does that actually break those down? And even though they're in powder form, they're still not anywhere near to the molecular size they need to be for absorption. The lining of your gut is so amazing. It's got all these finger-like structures, and each one of those is lined with epithelial cells, which are each lined with these receptor sites. And the interesting thing about the receptor sites is that they're not just like catcher's mitts, like send anything there and it'll catch it. No, they're actually specific to specific elements. So what that says is, you can throw in, 320 milligrams of magnesium into your gut, but you only have so many receptors, and all the rest just gets washed through. And if it's made of rocks, shells, or bones, you're going to have to first digest it. So chances are you're only ever going to absorb maybe 10 to 12% of that pill. And you're going to then assimilate only into your cells. So absorption is into your bloodstream and assimilation is into the cell. You can only ever get into your cells about 5 to 7%.
Wow.
Of that.
So that's why when I took extra calcium supplements, all it did for me was made me spend more time in the dentist chair with the hygienist trying to get all the tartar off my teeth. She said to me, my gal one time said, "You taking a lot of calcium supplements?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Yeah, I can tell on your teeth."
And this is the issue. So mineral supplementation is so completely misunderstood, and by most doctors, because they've never studied what I've studied. They don't know actually how minerals truly work in the body. Someone said, an older woman, she should be taking calcium. But calcium, magnesium, and potassium work in a three-legged, a balance. Minerals work more like blood sugar or hormone balance than they do, they're not meant to be used in single megadosed formatted things. Your body doesn't work like that. The way I like to think about it is this. Imagine, we think about the gut microbiome as a beautiful, when it's healthy, it's this thriving, it's like a forest. Beautiful, lush, everything's growing. It's a really great homeostasis and balance. And now go take a wheelbarrow of magnesium and throw it on the floor of that forest. And what's going to happen to the plants in that area? They're going to struggle. It's way too much. So what we're doing when we're taking these single megadose, meaning measured in milligrams, minerals, is we're constantly throwing our body into imbalance, and we're creating more work for our body, having to constantly get rid of all this excess. It's so, yeah.
Well, a novel concept, because most of us, when we're taking our vitamins and minerals, we think, oh, we're doing something really good for our bodies, but we may be causing more of an issue than is
Right.
worth it. So for somebody who has a less than optimal diet, certainly we all talk about diet, eat whole-based foods. I always say, if God made it, eat it. If man made it in a factory, do your best to avoid it, kind of a thing. For somebody who, say, has a less than optimal diet, will the minerals help them? Maybe not as much as somebody that is optimizing their diet. How does that work for people that are saying, I don't have time to fix really wholesome meals, so I'm eating fast food or I'm doing that? And how does it affect our hormones and our emotions and all that kind of stuff? It's got to have an effect on those, because all that stuff originates in the gut, all those dopamine and all those goodies that make us feel good, that are brain chemicals. So talk a little bit about that as well, please.
Yes. So one of the things that I like to help people understand is, when you're hungry, how do you feel? On edge, you feel a little hangry, right? And the hungrier you get, you kind of go, and then you just want some sugar or some crunchy, salty things, right? Because what does a hungry cell crave? Sugar and salt. Anything to quickly bring some energy into the cell. So I talk to people all the time who have started taking the minerals, and they suddenly find themselves making different food choices. There's this thing that, many of us feel this experience that there's just something missing. We're opening the fridge going, is there something that can fill that? Maybe you just ate a meal, but you're like, oh, is there something? What if that's just your cells saying, I need minerals? So when you start to give your body the minerals, I've heard this story over and over and over again since we've had our company, of people who suddenly, and I've personally had the experience as well, where their interest in food has changed. So what if you could, rather than having to turn over a new leaf, go on some diet, start changing your nutrition or disciplining yourself, all of those outward from the outside in, what if you could actually drink this, this looks like a lot. This is actually just 1 ounce of liquid in a glass of water. And just drink that every day, provide all of the minerals that your body needs so that it could generate the energy. And then that feeling of something's missing might go away. I've been hypoglycemic all my life until I started taking minerals. I have no hypoglycemia.
Wow.
So it's what I'm trying to help people understand is things like anxiety, depression, sleep issues, of course, cramping. Many of us are aware that, cramping, I need magnesium, but actually cramping can be from an imbalance between magnesium and potassium. It can be from other mineral depletions like phosphorus. So taking straight magnesium is not the answer. What you want to find is a solution such as plant-based minerals that provide the full spectrum of minerals that your body needs in an extremely bioavailable format.
When you were just talking about the taking extra magnesium and cramping, I was thinking of athletes. Do you have athletes that use your B minerals? And are they elite athletes, like at big college programs and at the pro level of different sports? And maybe even Olympic level?
I work with triathletes. I was working with a young athlete who's a runner. She's a long distance runner, came to us, just terrible gut problems, would put her into cramps so bad, stomach cramps so bad that she couldn't complete her races. She's taking all these salt-based electrolytes, and we got her on the minerals, and it's been an absolute game changer. So one of the things about the athletes are often taking lots of megadose minerals, and what it's doing is creating such imbalance in their body. And in fact, I work with a trainer who works with elite triathletes in the older classes. And one of the challenges that many of them have from taking so much magnesium is they're struggling with osteopenia and osteoporosis. Because when you, over a long period of time, constantly are putting magnesium in large amounts into your body, it has to balance. Your body is a balancing machine. So it says, oh, I've got so much magnesium here. I need potassium to balance. I need calcium. It starts pulling the calcium from the bones. You see, so women who are using magnesium for sleep, particularly older women, there's a lot of stuff out there about using magnesium for sleep, and it does work, but it's a Band-Aid, and it is not healthy over time, especially for older women.
Wow.
Okay.
What about hormones?
Yes.
Talk to us about hormones. I'm a huge fan of bioidentical hormones. I've been on them for 20 years next spring myself. My friends that aren't on them, Caroline, have all this stuff wrong with them, medical stuff. Yeah. I keep saying, what are you doing? You need to get on the hormones. So how does that play into the hormone issue for women, especially, and men, but women that are in perimenopause and menopause?
Well, first of all, again, I want to remind people that every single biosynthesis process in your body requires minerals. So if you're not mineral replenished, there is no way your body can complete all those biosynthesis processes. So that's the fundamental fact of the matter. Secondly, your reproductive hormones are in that three-legged stool between adrenals, thyroid, and hormones. And if one is out, the chances of one of the others being out is very, very high. So, and each one of these processes requires a huge amount of minerals. The adrenal gland, and many women who are struggling with hormonal balance are dealing with adrenal fatigue as well. And the adrenal gland stores a huge amount of minerals. Okay. So when you're mineral depleted, your adrenals are one of the first places that get hit, which then throws out your hormones. And then there is a huge rise of thyroid and Hashimoto's, thyroid issues and Hashimoto's. So what I say is, if you can provide the minerals first, and I work with a lot of practitioners. If there are any practitioners out there interested in speaking with me about using our products in their practice, it's been an incredible boon, because you take a patient who has so many chronic issues, and it's really hard to determine where to start with them. Should you start with giving them the bioidentical hormones, or should you start with the adrenals, or, trying to regulate their thyroid? Where do you start? And what they started doing, the practitioners who work with us, is getting the minerals into them first and beginning to replenish their minerals. Then when they give them the hormones, which they're maybe taking as a patch, or they're taking as, some internally, all sorts of different ways, right? Now those things are actually becoming more bioavailable in their body. So now we get into the other capacities of plant-based minerals, which make them so incredible and truly a technology. So there's two components of plant-based minerals. One is called Fulvic, and the other is called Humic. And the Fulvic is this really cool molecule. It carries with it all of the minerals that your body needs, formulated in the ratios that your body utilizes and is made of, already formulated in those ratios. And it also is something called a flavonoid. And that's a word that we've all heard, like, oh yeah, I think I'm supposed to have flavonoids. But what are they? It's really easy. They're intercellular transporters. So the way I like to describe it is, imagine if you're in a room and there's a door, and outside the door is a guy with a backpack. And he fills up the backpack with all the good stuff that you're going to eat and utilize that day. And he brings it in and he dumps it out on your desk. Now you have everything you need. You just get to hang out and go, oh, I want that now. Oh, I'd like to have this now. Oh, I want that now. But he's not done. He goes around and he picks up all the garbage, empties your recycling, and he takes it out of the room. This is how the flavonoid works in your cells. It carries, and particularly the fulvic flavonoid, it carries nutrients into the cell. It does what no other molecule on earth can do. It changes its polarity, and all those things fall off inside the cell, available to the mitochondria to generate all of that energy your body needs. So just using fulvic greatly increases the energy production in your body, substantially enhances energy production in the body. So if you feel that afternoon crash, you need a nap, you were looking for sugar at that time of the day to get you through, or that extra cup of coffee, you could just try fulvic minerals. And I mean, we hear story after story after story about that, supporting energy generation. And so, yeah.
And then what is it? Humic minerals are the other type?
Yeah.
What do they do that the fulvic don't do?
Yeah. So the humic is really different. So the fulvic, it's dropped all that good stuff off in the side of the cell, and then it picks up all the cellular detritus. It picks up environmental toxins like glyphosate, nanoplastics, heavy metals, and it carries those out of the cell. And then it changes its polarity again, and it drops those things off in your bloodstream. Now its partner in crime, or in health, the humic molecule, it's a very large molecule relative to a cell. And these molecules, they just hang out in your bloodstream. I call them Mother Nature's janitor. Imagine it's like a Velcro ball. It's very, very sticky on the outside. It has a huge amount of surface area, and things stick to it, like free radicals, those things that cause all the oxidative stress and inflammation in your body. It just clings to that humic molecule. The heavy metals that are free ranging and creating the oxidative stress as well, creating free radicals. It gathers glyphosate. It builds a film around the glyphosate and starts breaking down the molecule. It gathers nanoplastics. It gathers cellular biowaste and detritus from autophagy and all sorts of senescent cells and things. And at a certain point, you have this molecule that's got all these things clinging to it. And at a molecular weight, it gets so heavy, it falls out of solution, and it leaves your body through all of the elimination channels, whichever one is available. So it doesn't rely on certain pathways, elimination pathways, to be open, because in nature couldn't rely on that. It had to use any pathway. So it comes out of your sweat or your snot or your tears or your saliva or your breath, or you're rubbing your hands together, the bottoms of your feet, of course, your urine and feces. So it's like this 1-2 punch. Here you've got these molecules which carry with them all of the minerals your body needs to generate energy, the delivery mechanism for the minerals into your cells, the detoxification for intercellular detoxification. And what is all your tissues? All of your tissues are cells. So if you want to get stored heavy metals out of your cells, you need that intercellular detoxification transporter, which is the fulvic. And then you need to get them all the way out of your body, and that's the humic.
So it's an easy way to do chelation, basically, to get all the heavy metals and stuff out of our bodies.
And it's a way to do it on a regular basis, so you don't have to, you could do it maybe some sort of chelation protocol, which, please, if anyone's thinking of doing that, do it with a practitioner. But this is nature's way of clearing your system every single day, 24/7.
Just two or three more questions
Mhm.
as we're winding down here. Number one, are you saying we don't need to take vitamins anymore too if we take the minerals, or are vitamins still needed in conjunction with the minerals?
Yes, vitamins are still needed. But the beautiful thing is that if you're taking these plant-based fulvic, particularly the fulvic, all of the vitamins that you are taking are going to be exponentially more bioavailable. So you're going to actually get the benefit of those vitamins and all of the nutrition that you put in your mouth, much more so.
So we need to look for vitamins that don't have minerals attached. Those are kind of hard to find sometimes, aren't they? Unless we buy a bunch of individual ones like C or B12 or D3 or whatever.
Yeah. So that's a large conversation. And
Okay.
right now there is so much conversation about supplementation in general, and, the big handfuls of pills that everyone's taking. And, I do take B vitamins, and I think B vitamins are really useful. One of the things I could recommend to your folks is there is a scan, and the scan is called Oligoscan, OLIGOSCAN. And if you can find a practitioner in your area, I could provide the link to you for people so they could find a practitioner. The beautiful thing about the Oligoscan is it uses something called photospectrometry. It shines a light into your tissues, and it returns data which goes through an algorithm, and it'll tell you all of the levels of beneficial minerals in your body, heavy metals, electrolytes, and vitamin levels, as well as overall oxidative stress. So how many free radicals do you have roaming around, as well as some other things that are associated with detoxification pathways. How are your detox pathways doing? And it returns that data in like 30 seconds. And
Wow.
it's so much, I've done a huge amount of research about finding a good scan for minerals, but the fact that it also provides your vitamin levels is really useful. There's a lot to learn about vitamins, and how to get good vitamins, and probably a different conversation.
Okay. We'll have you back and tackle vitamins another time.
But if you can find vitamins that do not have, like, I recommend you actually determining which vitamins you need, and then getting those in single pills. Like I just take, riboflavin and biotin, and I think one other B vitamin I can't think of right now, and just take those separate from a multivitamin mineral thing, because taking those minerals in those large megadose, it's not helping.
See, everybody, this is why I wanted to have Caroline on, because this is a new way of thinking about all of this stuff. All right. Back to your guy that you heard speak last weekend who healed his pancreatic cancer in 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And back to you early in the conversation saying you were feeling better a couple of months out. Do you find that it is a rapid change that people can feel and experience? Certainly everybody's going to be different, but are you finding for the most part that we'll notice a difference pretty quickly when we start using the beam minerals?
Well, everyone's different. And so there are people who take their first sip of our minerals, and they're like, whoa, what happened? Like, I feel that right now. Okay. So, what
do they feel?
They feel a return of their energy. Like, literally, they feel it like go through their body. We go to aid stations at bike races and hand out our minerals. We have actually a spray, a Fulvic spray. You spray it on from the outside because that molecule is so small, it absorbs directly through the skin. So if you have a cramp and you spray that on, it will release most cramps in like 15 to 30 seconds.
Wow.
It's phenomenal. I was at a conference, a woman standing there in some shoes that are not comfortable. I'm like, here, try the spray. She sprays it on her feet. I told her just one foot, not the other. She's like, whoa, it's incredible. So I want to say to your audience, if there's anyone out there who has cramping, whether that's menstrual cramping, night cramps, that is mineral depletion. You need to be taking minerals internally and you need to be taking a full spectrum mineral supplement. Women do not have to have menstrual, unless endometriosis, fibroids, that's another kind of thing. But if you don't have those and you're having painful periods, try full spectrum minerals. You'll be amazed. So many women, their painful periods go away. And in the meantime, you can use the spray for your menstrual cramping or for your leg cramps at night and not get your cramps. You spray it on, if you have night cramps, you spray your legs before you go to bed. You won't get your cramp.
And you spray it on your belly if you're having menstrual cramps?
It's amazing.
That's profound. I was getting ready to say wow again. But I've said wow about 100 times here in this conversation. I think more than any other conversation I've ever had before, Caroline. I keep thinking, wow. Okay, I got to come up with another thing to say instead of wow. Oh my goodness.
Isn't it amazing that this is right in front of our, I mean, no one's talking about it. So that's why I'm doing this, because literally every person that I do a podcast with or talk to is like, wow. Why didn't I know this?
Yeah. We don't know what we don't know.
That's right.
Yeah. You got it. God bless you for getting this information out. Last question. Why do we incarnate?
Well, that's an interesting question. So I would have said
I ask it of every guest. Why do you think we incarnate?
I personally, my personal experience of that is because I had some lessons to learn, and boy, am I learning them. And I am committed in this life to learn them, and willing for probably the first time in a millennia to actually be present to learning them.
Well, you're an extraordinary woman. And on behalf of humanity, thank you for the work you're doing. I'm serious. Thank you for the work you're doing. Thank you for putting yourself out there to take this journey, to learn this stuff, to educate the rest of us, and to help people in the work that you do. I think it's just incredible what you've been able to accomplish in a short period of time. And at the same time, all of the benefits to those of us who are humans. And I assume that animals can benefit from minerals as well. We didn't even get into the animals, but am I correct in that assumption?
Yes, and we do have pet products.
Okay. All right. We're going to put all these links in the show notes and everything. Speaking of which, how can people learn more about you and your work?
They can go to beamminerals.com. You can also look me up as a mineral geek if you want to learn more about me. And Julie, I want to thank you so much. You literally brought tears to my eyes. It's a lot to do what you are doing and what I'm doing. And I so appreciate that reflection. It meant a lot to me. Thank you.
You are most welcome. Takes one to know one, right? Oh my gosh. All right, everybody. That's it for this time. Sending you lots of love from Sweet Home, Alabama, where I am, and from Colorado too, where Caroline is. And we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to follow Julie on Instagram and YouTube at Ask Julie Ryan, and like her on Facebook at Ask Julie Ryan. To schedule an appointment or submit a question, please visit AskJulieRyan.com.
This show is for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be medical, psychological, financial, or legal advice. Please contact a licensed professional. The Ask Julie Ryan Show, Julie Ryan and all parties involved in producing, recording, and distributing it assume no responsibility for listeners' actions based on any information heard on this or any Ask Julie Ryan shows or podcasts.